Okay, so this lesson is on solving literal equations. It may be a little tough, but it's feasible. Alright, so when we're solving literal equations, this is an equation with more than one variable. Our goal when doing this is to highlight the variable we are looking for, or trying to solve for, or get by itself, and then use the inverse operations to get the variable by itself. Now the one thing you have to remember is the concept of combining like terms. Okay? So, right now when we look at this first example, it says solve the equation for m. So what I'm going to do is highlight the m. Now if I look, my goal is to get that by itself, which means I have to get rid of two things. I have to get rid of the 3n, and I have to get rid of the 4. Remember, we always undo addition and subtraction first, right? So the term I want to get rid of first here is this 3n. Since it's minus 3n, what I'm going to do is add it to both sides. But here's the thing, 8 and 3n are not like terms, so what I'm going to do is scoot it over. Okay? So now, I'm going to get 4m, 3n's cancel out, equal, I always put the variable first, so it's going to be 3n. Since 8 is positive, we're going to add it. Now, I just go ahead and I divide everything by 4. When I divide everything by 4, I get m equals 3/4 n plus 2. Okay? So the next example, right? My goal is to solve for r. So the first thing I'm going to do is r is on the right side. So what I'm going to do is copy that 2 times pi times r equals c. Now again, my goal is to get r by itself. That's what I want by itself. So I have to get rid of 2 and pi. Well, here's the thing, right? 2, pi, and r are all linked by multiplication. So how do I get r by itself? I divide by 2. I divide by pi. Whatever I do to that side, I do to this side. So r is equal to c over 2 pi. Okay? So again, you're using inverse operations, starting with undoing addition and subtraction first, multiplication division second. So the next one, we want to solve for v, right? So again, I like the variable I'm solving for to be on the left. So vw plus z equals u. So, to get v by itself, I have to get rid of w and z. Which one do I get rid of by addition and subtraction first? That would be z. So I subtract z. Can I line it up under u? No, because they are not like terms. So I scoot it over. So I get vw equals u minus z. Now, v is linked to w by multiplication. How do I undo multiplication? Divide. Oops, sorry. Excuse me, I'm getting w or v by itself, so vw, so I'm going to divide by w, and in this case v would equal u minus z all over w. You can write your answer that way, or you can say u over w minus z over w. Both answers are acceptable. Now this one is a little tricky, right? Now when I go to do this one, a lot of people will distribute the 5/9, but that ends up making like kind of an ugly fraction. So what I do is I get rid of the 5/9 first, right? I'm going to multiply both sides by 9. Remember, I only multiply what's outside the parentheses here. So I would get 9c equals 5 times f minus 32. So now, how do I get rid of the 5 if it's linked to parentheses by multiplication? I divide. So f minus 32, I'm just copying this down, that's what I have left, equals 9/5 c. Then, I go ahead and I add 32. Right? Remember, 9/5 c and 32 are not like terms, so I scoot it over. So I get 9/5 c plus 32. Okay, again, you can pause and slow these down as much as you want. So to solve these equations for y, which is a valuable skill down the road, right, again, we're getting y by itself, which means I undo addition and subtraction first. So what do I get rid of by addition and subtraction? The 6x. So I'm going to subtract it. I'm going to scoot it over because it's not a like term with 24. I'm going to get negative 2y equals, I always write my x term first, so negative 6x plus 24. Then I'm going to go ahead, divide by negative 2. And y equals negative 6 divided by negative 2 is 3x, and 24 divided by negative 2 is negative 12, so it's minus 12. Okay? Next one. Again, how do I get rid of 3x? I subtract it. I get negative 4y equals negative 3x plus 20. Remember, those are not like terms. Then I'm going to divide everything by negative 4. And then I simplify. So y equals 3/4 x. Then 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5, so it's minus 5. Okay, a lot of these problems are the very same. Undo addition and subtraction, then undo multiplication and division. Alright, so this is where it gets a little tricky. So we're solving this one for h. So if I'm solving this one for h, I rewrite the problem. Pi r squared h equals v. Remember, I copy this side over here, then this over here. Now, pi and r squared are both linked to h by multiplication. So how do we undo multiplication? Well, to get rid of pi, I'm going to divide by it. Those cancel. To get rid of r squared, I'm going to divide by it. Those cancel. Now I'm left with h. Whatever I do to the left side, I do to the right side, and I get h equals v over pi r squared. Alright, so a lot of this probably is like, why are we doing this? When you go to science class, you will do this a lot because you won't always solve for the same thing over and over and over. So, it allows you to recreate formulas to help you understand how to find other answers quickly. So, this next example, to solve for y. I could distribute the 2/3 if I want, but it's actually easier, right, to get rid of that fraction first by multiplying both sides by 3. Since 2/3 is outside the parenthesis, right, I don't have to multiply everything inside. So I would get 2 times 2x minus 4y equals 24. Now, 2 is linked to the parentheses by multiplication, so I divide. 2x minus 4y equals 12. And now we're back to doing what we did before. Subtract 2x, subtract 2x. Negative 4y equals negative 2x, right, plus 12. Divide everything by negative 4. And y is equal to negative 2 over negative 4, right? That's going to become a positive 2 over 4, which is the same as 1/2. We don't want decimals here. 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3, so it's minus 3. Alright, so here, right, the first thing I do want to do here, if I'm getting y by itself, is distribute. So y plus 6 equals 8x minus 20. But then I'm going to subtract 6 to get y by itself. What do I line it up under? The minus 20. So I get y equals 8x, and then negative 20 minus 6 is minus 26. And I am done. Okay, so when you look at a majority of the problems that are in this lesson, a lot of them are like the ones we originally did, being able to solve for y. That's a big part of it. Then here, this is where it gets a little tricky, so I'm going to do one of them with you, right? So for number 3, So for number 3, oops, sorry, this is a new feature, right? If I look at this, I know nx and nx, these are like terms, right? So since they're like terms, I'm going to add nx to both sides. When I do that, right, the 9 ends up being by itself. So I get 17nx plus technically 1nx is going to give me 18nx, right, equals 9. Now, what do I do to get nx by itself? I divide by 18, and nx equals 1/2. Okay? Now, the other one that might be a little tough is the very last problem, which is the Fahrenheit problem. Okay? So now, where this is a little tough is I'm getting C by itself. So I'm going to write 9/5 C plus 32 equals F. So now the first thing I have to do, right, is first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get rid of the 32 to get C by itself. So that's subtract 32, subtract 32. So I end up with 9/5 C equals F minus 32. Now there is 2 ways you could do this, right? One is multiplying by 9/5. When I get rid of it, I'm going to divide by 9/5, right? So what some people may do is, let me change the color here. Oh. So if I go ahead and look at this, some people would multiply both sides by 5, multiply by 5, so I'd get 9C equals 5 times the parentheses F minus 32. But then I'm going to divide both sides by 9, and when I divide by 9, I would get C is equal to 5 over 9 times F minus 32. So what I want you to do is go ahead and do the rest of these problems, right? Do the rest of these problems, practice problems. I want you to go ahead and check your answers, right? Once you check your answers, then I want you to go ahead and do the quiz and text me your score.